Hi, folks. You're watching Uncut with Kyle Kraska. That's me. And I am joined today by the outstanding Rams beat writer for The Athletic. She is Jourdan Rodrigue. Jourdan, how are you? Great to see you.
It's awesome to see you, Kyle. We were due. We get like a couple of these every year, and they're always a joy. So thank you for having me today.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're just back from Rams practice as they get set to make that journey across the country to those frigid 20-degree temperatures in New Jersey. What's the vibe like out there right now?
Yeah, everybody feels calm. I think one thing that helps is this group went through a surge like this at the halfway point of the season, particularly after the bye last year. So it's kind of, even with the young guys, it's a little bit of a, hey, we've done this before, we can do it again. And I think that's brought a calmness, a settled nature. Sean McVay, after the Eagles game, got up in front of the team and put a number on a giant screen in front of everybody. 39 days left. That's all you have guaranteed to you of this season. And I think it's really helped guys seem very present, be very focused. The cliche is be where your feet are, but I'm actually getting that vibe out of this Rams team right now.
Jourdan, they've gone from 1-4 to now 8-6, and they're in the driver's seat to get into the playoffs by winning the NFC West. I'm not going to sit here or stand here and pretend like we didn't see this coming, because the last time you and I spoke, which was very early in the season, we were both in agreement that this team just had way too much talent not to make a run at some point if they got healthy. So tell the audience, aside from getting healthy, what has this team done well to get into this position?
Well, in particular, one very specific position got healthy, right? And that's their offensive line. Yeah. And you see this all over their tape. You could see it in every phase of not only their run game, but their pass game, some of the ways that they're moving people off of the ball. They are dictating the line of scrimmage. If you want to play football in December, if you want to sustain football into January, if you want to keep your quarterback, who is not the youngest guy in the world and really loves a clean pocket, if you want to keep him safe, if you want to keep him healthy, if you want to get that sort of that physicality, that extra gusto when you are playing these really challenging games, especially if you're on the road in the playoffs like this team could be, you need to be able to have an offensive line that establishes the point of attack and that moves dudes backwards. And that is what this offensive line is doing a few weeks in a row, even against very physical outfits who have come into town before and had their way with the Rams. They established the point of attack, and particularly starting at about halftime in that Saints game onward in week 13. That is a difference you've seen in this Rams team. And it's a group that's playing together really as intended for the first time all season over the last 3 games. That has been absolutely crucial to this surge right now.
Jourdan, I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to talk about the offensive line. In fact, in preparation for this interview, I went back and I watched the 49ers game again, and I watched the offensive line. I watched Rob Havenstein moving guys out of the way, moving that 49er front. It was really impressive. Bo Limmer and opening these gaps for Kyren Williams, and that's exactly what they wanted, right? The entire season, they wanted to get this running game going, and they wanted to protect Matthew Stafford, and now they're doing exactly that.
Yeah, he likes to have a very clean interior of his pocket. One of the things with these quarterbacks who are kind of the gunslingers, who don't move as much, although he's got some zone read going the last couple weeks as well, Kyle. I know you've seen that, and you're like, is that Matthew Stafford out there? Who am I watching? But, you know, guys who like to have that clean pocket, you really are cautious and wary of that interior pressure especially. And getting Steve Avila back on the left side, having Kevin Dotson really be the stalwart of that offensive line on the right side, and the emergence of 6th-round rookie center Bo Limmer. This interior is just, they're massive humans, first and foremost, and they play with bad intentions. They're the nicest guys in the world, by the way, but they play with extremely bad intentions. You could see it all over the tape. It's activating other phases of their game too. I know we all saw the viral clip of Kevin Dotson in the screen game. He took care of 2 49ers players and went hunting for more people to bounce out of the club, right? And on the backside of that play, Steve Avila is picking up a huge block to extend that play a little bit longer. This is a run game and a screen game and then a passing game in layers that is all activated by the way these guys are blocking.
Well, I've been drinking the Rams Kool-Aid all season, even when they were 1-4, and I think this team, when healthy, is one of the most talented in the entire league. How do you feel about their chances? Let's say that they do win the NFC West and they get into the postseason. They would host one game, and that could be against a team like the Vikings. It could be against the Lions. How do you feel they will fare against some of the better teams in the NFC come postseason time?
Yeah, I talked to a lot of people around the league, people from other teams, executives in other buildings, and the Rams are not a team anybody wants to play if they make it to the postseason. I think that's the highest compliment an opponent can pay another opponent, is that they do not want to face them in the postseason. They do not want to face them on the road. They don't want to face them at home, because when this group is clicking, when Matthew Stafford is elevating this passing game the way that he has in the past, especially when he really turns that extra gear like we saw in the Buffalo Bills game the other week, when he really gets clicking into that extra, we call it like that Matthew Stafford darkly chaotic energy, right? And then when this offensive line is playing the way it is, this defensive line is really coming to life in a positive way for such a young group. The secondary is playing way better than it has at the beginning and the middle portion of this season. This is a really tough matchup team too. This is actually, for his age at 37, Sean McVay has been here so many times. He is a great matchup coach. And what I mean by that is he knows how to game plan one by one against you in ways that will frustrate you. And he has the active players and the healthy players to do that.
All right, you've kind of moved the conversation toward Matthew Stafford, so let's talk about that. Matthew will turn 37 years old 2 days before the Super Bowl in New Orleans. He's having a great year, and the Rams went all in on him this year. They restructured his contract. He's getting paid $40 million this year, and then it's going to kind of be, well, let's see. Let's see what the future holds. What do you think about what he's done at this age of 36, and what does the future hold for the Rams and Matthew Stafford?
I'm really impressed by him. I've obviously, watching him throw the ball is unlike many experiences that you ever get in life. Getting to watch all the arm angles and just the way that he manipulates and orchestrates the offense pre-snap, the calls he makes, the audibles he makes, those types of things are just purely special, right? And, if and when he ever hangs his cleats up, the league, I think, will remember him as a future Hall of Famer. And I think that is deserved at this point in his career. But it's interesting because he's kind of aging in reverse, right? Like, we see him moving better. We see him staying healthier for longer parts of the season, where he would always get so banged up around the middle of the year. Part of that is the offensive line. And part of that is just the game plan and the scheme and the system, the caliber of the playmakers around him as well. That they all help each other, right? And so it's interesting. This is very much a contract where you revisit at the end of the season. You come back to the table. I don't see this Rams team being a team that is going to break the bank for a quarterback in the future. And this is why I say that. They have 2 full classes of rookie starters, and a couple of them at premier positions, including pass rusher, including receiver, including interior defensive lineman, including left guard, who are all going to be eligible for early contracts in 2025, and then another round of contract extensions in 2026. And you only have one player who you have the ability to use a 5th-year option with in Jared Verse, because he was a first-round pick. Those players are going to be so expensive to retain and extend, and that is the young core of this Rams roster. And that does not count Matthew Stafford out. It's just that there's going to be probably some conversations about what that would actually feasibly look like. And also asking him, hey, man, what do you want to do? How are you feeling? How's the body feeling? Do you still have that it factor, that love to show up and just get, the crap kicked out of you half of the year, right? But then do some amazing things as well. And if I'm going to guess with Matthew Stafford, I don't think he's done yet. But again, you'll have to see what the Rams number is and what his number is when the time comes.
I would like to hear more about Matthew Stafford's secret for age reversal, the old Benjamin Button technique. I'd like to hear more about that. You are watching Uncut with Kyle Kraska. That is me. And today we are talking with Jourdan Rodrigue. She is the excellent beat writer for the Rams. She works over at The Athletic. You can see it right on her hat right there.
Yeah, in case you didn't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for the advertisement. I'm sure The Athletic will send them the bill. Jourdan, I want to talk about the NFL MVP award and the race for that, because it's been a hot topic lately, because it seems like we've got 2 clear leaders, right? Lamar Jackson, who is the incumbent. He's the defending MVP of the league. And then you've got Josh Allen, who's having an outstanding year for the Buffalo Bills. Let me ask you right off the top, who is your MVP right now?
Right now, as things stand at this very moment, it is Josh Allen. But 2 weeks ago, it was Lamar Jackson.
Okay.
So what I mean to say by that is every single week from about the middle of November onward, things fluctuate and change in these voters' minds so quickly. I am not a voter, just to make sure that's out there in public so people don't come after me on social media. But This is something where if you look at the voter psychology of what this award has been, it is the flows and the surges, especially late in the year, especially with these quarterbacks who are getting opportunities to play in these primetime windows. I think the peak and the apex so far of the Josh Allen MVP conversation that we've heard was in a loss to the Rams, but it's because he had a hand in 6 touchdowns and everybody in the world in prime time saw what a special player he is and how he almost single-handedly retook that game and retook that lead from the Rams, who put up 44 points, which is nothing to sneeze at. So I think that conversation drives things. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, they're going to have a couple of late game opportunities, late windows, a couple of island games in this last stretch. And then obviously the voters have a huge decision to make because Josh Allen obviously has never won one. Lamar Jackson has 2, and deservedly so. And you could also make the case that Lamar Jackson is playing even better than he did in his second MVP season, which has been the case for most of the year. These are 2 absolutely phenomenal choices, in my opinion. And it's going to be interesting to see how the narrative shifts back and forth over the next 3 weeks.
Well, Jordan, Vegas certainly sides with you because the current odds, I'm reading them here, Josh Allen is minus 900. That means you have to bet $9 to win 1 for Josh Allen to win the MVP award. Lamar Jackson is plus 650, which means you bet $1, you win $6.50. Now, I would like to argue the fact that, as you said, Lamar Jackson, who's already won 2 MVP awards, is probably having the best season of his career. In fact, I just want to point right to quarterback rating, 120.7. If the season ended right now, that would be the 4th highest in the history of the league, or at least the history of this rating. And then you look at many of the numbers on here. He's got more yardage and more touchdowns and fewer interceptions. I guess in some regards, as you've pointed out, it really takes what is the definition of MVP? Yeah. It's not who's got the greatest stats, right? It's not who's had the best season statistically. It's who's most valuable to their team. And certainly without Josh Allen, where would the Bills be? But I could kind of say the same thing about Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, couldn't I?
Yeah, and it's interesting too. This award, that's why the subjectivity of this award drives people crazy every year, but it also gives us great things to talk about, right?
Exactly.
So, but I think the interesting thing too is, Lamar Jackson was quarterbacking and is quarterbacking a team. Now, this defense for the Ravens, they've improved over the last couple of weeks. They made some adjustments after their bye week. They shifted a couple positions and personnel on the back end especially. But this was a disastrous years to start, especially to start for this Ravens defense, who at one point were allowing the most explosive passes completed on them in the entire NFL. And yet they're winning games, and it's because of Lamar Jackson, right? And so I think that's an MVP definition in itself. Well, you switch to Buffalo, and the question coming in is, oh my gosh, what is Josh Allen going to do? Who is he going to throw the ball to? What is this committee? They have some injuries at tight end, and what is this committee going to look like? And then, oh, by the way, they're also missing people on their defensive side, but they are also winning games, and it is because of Josh Allen and what he can do and the dimension that both of these players add, not just in the pass game, but in the run game. This, to me, is a race that will come down to the wire, and if we are going to purely define the MVP, I want to throw Saquon Barkley in there as well.
Okay.
And I want to throw Detroit Lions right tackle Penei Sewell in there as well, because that entire offense is built around Penei Sewell, and it is a glorious thing to behold.
I love all of that. And since you brought up Saquon Barkley, I mean, having an incredible year for the Eagles, is there any chance at all that he sneaks in and wins this thing? Shy of maybe going over 2,000 yards for the season, is there any chance? Because obviously this has become a quarterback award.
It has become a quarterback award, and I think at a certain point there will be a voter fatigue with quarterbacks every season, right? I think part of it is we also funnel the fact that there's an Offensive Player of the Year award. There is going to be a Super Bowl MVP. There are several different sort of subset awards that can kind of take the sting off maybe not winning the MVP if you're a non-quarterback. And so voters play this game where they're like, okay, well, I'm not going to give that guy MVP, but I am going to give him Offensive Player of the Year. And I'm like, well, couldn't you argue that the definition is about the same? And so that's what I think at a certain point you're going to reach an inflection point where the voters are fatigued with quarterbacks every year. It might very small chance. I'd be curious to know what the line is for this in Vegas, but very, very small chance that Saquon Barkley makes that late surge and maybe could rely on a little bit of that voter fatigue. I think it is inarguable the just difference he's made with that entire Philadelphia ecosystem, let alone its offense.
Well, Jourdan, over the last several minutes, my football IQ just went up about another 25 points. I love talking football with you. Thanks so much for taking the time to stop by today.
Thanks for having me, Kyle. Always a pleasure.